Greetings from right off the shores of Lake Roosevelt, Arizona. On today's episode, I'm going to be exploring some Native American cliff dwellings that you can actually go inside at Tonto National Monument. If that sounds cool to you, you're going to want to stick around, and I'd love to have you tag along. So let's go start this adventure. The adventure today begins in the parking lot, right in front of this picturesque hill covered in wildflowers. Absolutely gorgeous. First thing we're going to want to do is actually go into the visitor center here, pay our admission, and then they do some exhibits to kind of educate you about what you're going to see today. And what that is way up on that hill there. You can actually see the ruins that we're going to go inside. So if you come to visit here, you're probably going to want to make a quick stop here in a little museum area. There's some really nice exhibits that explains the history of the area, the people that made the cliff dwellings, so you can learn a little bit about that. It's a pretty short, small museum, so it won't take you too long. Or like me, I always like to read about things before I visit, so I've done my research, or I've tried to anyway. And then the journey begins right up these stairs, where we're gonna actually hike up to what's known as the lower ruins. So basically what you're gonna do here is take a half-mile paved trail way up there to where the actual lower cliff dwelling resides. About 300 feet in height is what we're going to ascend today. So I've done this a couple times and I think it's actually pretty simple. I've never had any issues, and you can take your time and go slowly. Your biggest hazard here is probably the heat of summer. If you come out here in the summer months, it gets hot. So you might want to do this in cooler months if you're ever thinking about visiting here. Ooh, and they have a movie. Now, I just like to push buttons, so that's really all I care about right now.
Canyons bite into mesas and snake through mountain highways.
And here's a good look at the trail. Lots of nice grip. It's almost like sandpaper, the texture, so slippage is not going to happen here. I don't think they classify this as an accessible trail. I mean, it is paved all the way up, but it's pretty bumpy. Slopes off to the side a little bit, so you got to be really careful. But they do consider the whole visitor center experience down there ADA compliant. You'll also find a lot of signage on this trail. They do a really good job educating you here. So take your time and learn, enjoy. You know, I'm really just enjoying the wildflowers, really. I'm taking my time. I mean, look at that. So here at Tonto National Monument, there are two sets of ruins you can visit here. The main one are the lower cliff ruins that we're heading to now, and there's what's known as the upper cliff ruins. Now those are not accessible by self-guided tour usually. You have to book a tour. They usually do them, I believe, on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays, really only in the winter months in the spring. And I did inquire about that at the visitor center today. I found out, unfortunately, that thing books up pretty solid, and they're booked up through April, which is the end of the season before it gets too hot. Now the good news is, though, the ranger did tell me there's an open house on March 7th and 8th of this year of 2020. We're coming back out to do that. So today's focus, though, is the lower ruins, which, don't get me wrong, those are absolutely spectacular. So just wait and you see. So if you get winded, they do have benches along the way, so you could sit and relax. Now, when I've been here in the past, it's been hit or miss. Sometimes they have volunteers hanging out there to educate you, answer questions. Sometimes not. So I'm curious today what it'll be. I see people kind of congregated outside in the front of it. So I wonder if those are volunteers. We are getting very close now to the actual ruins. I'm excited. This is a very unique experience. You often don't get to go inside ruins at places like this. And you can see it's right around the corner now. So we're not the History Channel here, and I'm not going to go into a complete history lesson here for you. I'm going to give you some basics though. Right up there are what remains of a people that occupied this area hundreds of years ago, named the Salado. Now, this was pre-Columbian culture, and they certainly didn't call themselves the Salado. That name was given to them years and years later. Because of the name of the surrounding area, there's a river called the Salt River, or the Rio Salado, and that was where they got their name, the Salado Indian culture. It's really not known why these people abandoned this region. They believe they abandoned it around 13 to 1400 AD, very likely because of resource depletion in this area and drought. They would have migrated to other areas. They may have melded into some of the tribes that we know today. Nobody really knows for sure. And that's part of the fascination that I have with these places, is that mystery of what happened. Now, when they were here, they did seem to thrive. Based on remains that they found of these people, they appeared very healthy. When they tested remains, they didn't seem to have a lot of the same deficiencies that other agricultural cultures had. So, and their dental records seemed pretty good compared to other people of the time. So living in this area, while it was fruitful, seemed to be a really good place to live. And another view of the parking lot where we started, and you can see the trail, kind of part of the trail winding up this way. Most of it's out of view now. But boy, look at that view. Looks like there's some remnants here on this area of the cliff of other walls and structures here. And here we are, entering these 700-year-old ruins. Look at this, folks. That is utterly amazing. I wonder, as I walk into these structures, what were these rooms used for? Did somebody lay their head down at night and sleep in here? I'm standing in here in these 700-year-old ruins, maybe in someone's old living room, who knows? In my experience so far, living here in Arizona, you get to visit lots of really neat ruins, but you really don't get to go into them usually, like Montezuma Castle, some of the dwellings near Montezuma Well, places like that. You can see them pretty close up, but you don't get to go inside of them like this. Now, one thing that I inquired about before, this wood, I'm not going to touch it, is hundreds of years old. You can see, it looks like they may have cemented these to keep the structure there. I assume at one point you would have had these poles sticking out horizontally along the wall here. And more structures that I think they did to support this. I imagine in the heat of summer, this would have stayed nice and a little bit cooler than the surrounding area out there. And an example of how they would use stone to grind things. So one really neat thing to note is if you talk to there is a ranger here or a volunteer, and they'll give you temporarily give you this. That kind of identifies what some of these rooms were thought to have been used for. I also confirmed, I talked at pretty good length with the volunteer here, and she let me know a lot of very useful information, so I'd recommend when you come, take advantage of that. But this structure is about 80% original, so that's actually quite a bit. It's in really good shape compared to others, which is why they let you in here. But yeah, what you're seeing is about 80% original. Imagine that. And you can kind of see the layout here. That room 8 is this one here, right in front of me. And they think this room was a community meeting place or workplace, is what the thing says here. And one other thing I inquired about is the black coloration on the ceiling is in fact soot left over from fires that they burned in here to keep warm. Oh, I didn't realize you could actually go over here too. Oh my gosh, I almost passed this up, guys. Did you know that all this wood that you see here, this is all original wood? I confirmed that with a volunteer, hundreds of years old. And there's much more to see back here too. This section might be neater than the first one, really. Look at these remnants of the wood here. A really cool picture of what this may have looked like during its prime. And look at the view that these people would have had of the surrounding valley. It's absolutely stunning here. A perfect property. Now, once again, a reminder that lake would not have been there in these people's time. That was from a dam not too far from here. But regardless, look at that. Well, time to head on back down the hill. Luckily, going down is much easier than going up. But it's an absolutely fascinating glimpse into the past of a very not well-known people. I did get some other really useful information. Talked maybe for about 10-15 minutes with the volunteer up here. And I inquired about the upper ruins, which, like I said, we're going to come back and visit either March 7th or 8th when they have their open house, self-guided tours, basically. She said, if you look up there at that rock outcropping, the actual upper ruins are about 300 yards from that. Now, you do have to hike about 3 to 4 miles to get it through a kind of rocky trail. We'll, of course, see what that's all about when we go. But she said there's a pull-off when you leave here and turn right, which I am going that direction. There's a scenic overlook where we're supposed to be able to get a glimpse of the upper ruins. So I did find out that the upper ruins that you can visit when we do our self-guided tour of those in a couple weeks, they are larger than this here, much larger, and you can go inside of them too. So keep checking back on our channel because you're not going to want to miss that. Those are a little bit more difficult to visit, and many of you may have never gotten a chance to see it, so we're going to make sure to do that. A couple other interesting fun facts that I got from the volunteer that aren't related to the ruins per se, but to the area. They actually have 4 mountain lions that live here somewhere on this property. They've been caught on game camera. She's never seen them for herself, but I thought that was pretty cool. You have mountain lions that live in this area. Well, heading on back down now. That was the lower ruins at Tonto National Monument. It never stops fascinating. It never gets old. If you've never been here and seen it, you gotta come check this place out. So if you enjoyed this adventure, please support the Cactus Atlas by liking, sharing, and subscribing. And come check us out on social media sometime at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram under the name Cactus Atlas. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to next time.